Hi, it's Gina Page, and I'm here today to talk to you about the different types of DNA that are used for genetic ancestry tracing. There are a lot of different kinds of tests out there today, and we just wanted to give you this little quick brief primer on what DNA is being looked at. So we'll start with African ancestry because we're the best, so we'll start there. So let's talk about just DNA in general first of all. Now, if you all are familiar with African ancestry, you know that I'm not the scientist. My business partner is a geneticist, and he is, oh yeah, here he is. This is my business partner, Dr. Rick Kittles. I'll sit him right here. He's a real person, but he's a geneticist, and so I'm gonna give you like DNA for fifth grader, okay? So DNA is found in every cell of our bodies. It's what makes us human, and 99.9% of our DNA is the same. Mine is the same as everyone out there who's listening. It's the same as the person who's driving next to you in your car in the morning. It's the same as your co-worker sitting across from you or in the next office. It's what makes us human. But obviously, we're not the same. We're different. And that's because in that 0.1% of difference in our DNA, all of the things that are unique to us exist. So there's a part of your DNA that determines your hair color, or your eye color, or your height, or the shape of your nose, or the texture of your hair, or the size of your feet. All of those things, even your personality, in large part, is determined by your DNA. And so that's what DNA is in a nutshell. It's what makes us human. Now, we each inherit 50% of our DNA from our mother and 50% from our father. So I have a little art lesson here. If your mother's yellow and your father's blue, then what color are you going to be? Any guesses? You're going to be green. You should be green. Yellow and blue makes green. So imagine that we're all yellow. Both men and women were yellow. Green. Both men and women were green. But we have this little bit of yellow DNA. We have this little yellow dot, a little tiny bit of our DNA that we inherited from our mother that didn't mix with anything we got from our father. It stayed yellow. So we're green because mother's yellow and father's blue, but you also have this little yellow dot. That's called mitochondrial DNA. And that's maternally inherited. So that means you get it from your mother. You and your brothers and sisters get it from your mother. She and her brothers and sisters get it from your grandmother. She and her brothers and sisters get it from your great-grandmother and your great-great-great-grandmother, and so on for generations. This yellow dot doesn't change. Doesn't matter who the fathers are. There's a little bit of DNA that you inherited from generations of women that stayed the same. That's mitochondrial DNA. And then women, when we become mothers, we pass it to our children. And then our daughters pass it to their children, and so on and so on. So if I can find out something about your yellow dot, then we found out something very informative about your entire maternal line. Hopefully you all are with me. And that's the Mitochrondrial test that African Ancestry offers. We look specifically at your yellow dot. We're only looking at DNA that's inherited by the women or from the women in your family. We then compare that DNA, that yellow dot, to yellow dots from all over the world. And we have the largest database at AfricanAncestry.com. We have the largest database of indigenous African lineages, yellow dots, from all over Africa. We have over 33,000 African lineages in our database. So if we can find a yellow dot in our database that matches your yellow dot, then we found where you're from. We found your cousins. You have to share the same maternal ancestry because you have the same yellow dot. And the only way you got it was from the mothers and the mothers and the mothers. So one way to think about it, hey, Kofi Bonnie joined us. Shout out. He's part of our amazing IT team. Think about it. So my mother took a Mitochondrial test, and we found that those results are that ancestry is shared by Fulani people living in Nigeria today. So since my mother took the test, I didn't have to, because the test looked at her yellow dot, but it's the same as my yellow dot. It's the same as my aunt's yellow dot, and all my cousins' yellow dot, and my cousins' children, their yellow dot is all the same. So I'm in DC, I have this yellow dot. Okay, I'm gonna use my props. I have this little tiny yellow dot, right? There are people living in Nigeria today who are Fulani people who have the same yellow dot as me, the same mitochondrial DNA. I'm in DC, they're in Nigeria. We each got it from our mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from her mother, and so on. Ultimately, we got that mitochondrial DNA from one woman at some point 500 to 2,000 years ago. And so that's how we found out that my ancestry is Fulani. Now, if you only have 500 lineages in your database or 1,000 lineages in your database, then you don't have that many to compare it to. But because African Ancestry has 33,000, we're able to tell you the specific country in Africa that you share ancestry with and the ethnic group, if it's African. Because at some point, that yellow dot may have been a European woman. We don't know. We won't know until you take the test. Okay, so that's mitochondrial DNA testing. When you get those results from African Ancestry, you get, oh wait, there's a question. So the yellow dot of the female tells me as a male where my DNA is linked. Yes, exactly, Avery, because you're half your mother and half your father. You became green, and you have this little bit of DNA from your mother that didn't mix. So yes, the answer is yes. Now I'm going to show you your father's side in just a second. When you take our test, you get the people and the country that you share ancestry with, if it's African. And we also provide something called a haplogroup. But really, the haplogroup just tells you that you're African. It can't tell you where in Africa you come from. So if you've gotten a haplogroup from another company, you know you're African, but you don't know where in Africa. And if you call us and ask for your haplogroup, if you take our test and get a haplogroup, it's just going to confirm that you're African, but the real value is knowing the people and the country. Like Kevin found out his mother is Yoruba. Shout out to Kevin King Brown, a member of the family. Okay, so that's the mother side. Now let's go back to our art lesson. Your mother's yellow, your father's blue. You're green. Now, the fellas, Kevin and Avery, you guys got a little blue dot. You got a little bit of DNA from your father that didn't mix with anything you got from your mother. It stayed blue. So you're still green. As a man, you still have this yellow dot from your mother, but you also have a blue dot. Ladies, we don't have a blue dot. We don't want a blue dot. The blue dot is the Y chromosome. And the Y chromosome is what determines maleness. It's paternally inherited, right? And it determines that you're a male. So ladies, we can't have one because we're not males, okay? Anyway, you want to remember that the blue dot has the gene for leaving the toilet seat up. That's how you can remember that this is the dudes and not us. James wants to know, is African Ancestry black owned? Were y'all schooled, James? Of course we're black owned. We've been black owned. We're black owned. Everybody who works here is black. Our vendors are black. So yes, we are. Okay, so back to the blue dot. This is the Y chromosome. This is what determines maleness. So all the men watching, you got your blue dot from your father, who got it from his father, who got it from his father, and so on and so on. For generations, the blue dot doesn't change. So it's kind of like your last name. Traditionally, the last name is passed from father to son, it doesn't change. That's like the blue dot. So when we want to find out paternal ancestry, the father's line of the tree, we look at the blue dot. So we need a man to take the test. Any of you fellas can take it. Kevin took it. I think his father's line was Guinea-Bissau. And so if you're a woman and you want to know your paternal ancestry, you need a male relative. It can be your brother, as long as you all share the same father. It could be your father. It could be your father's brother. It could be your father's brother's son. It could be your grandfather. Any male on that line of the family can take the test and give you that result. So my father took the test. I'm an only child. I'm a woman. I don't have a blue dot. He took the test, and we traced our paternal ancestry to the house of people living in Nigeria today. So that means everybody in my family whose father is a page shares paternal ancestry with the house of people in Nigeria today. One test and all these people find out. David Darkwood shouting out, okay, he said his father's Yoruba ancestry and his mother's Mende and Crew from Sierra Leone and Liberia. Thanks for tuning in, David. Easy Street, yes, we found Easy Street's ancestry in Nigeria. Shout out to the Igbo people. So that is mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome DNA for genetic ancestry tracing in a nutshell. Now, there's a third test out there that is called an admixture test. That test doesn't look at your yellow dot or your blue dot. It looks at your entire genetic family tree and then gives you a breakdown of what percentage of that ancestry comes from this place, what percentage comes from that place, what percentage comes from this place, and so on. It's very general. It's very macro level. The average black person is 75% African, 25% European. You already know that. The value to identity, which is what we're concerned with as African ancestry, is not in knowing how much of something you have, but knowing where specifically your ancestry is found. What country, what ethnic group. That's what we're here to tell you. And so that test is also a swab, but they just look at a different part of your DNA. They look at what are called SNPs. And they look at far more SNPs, areas of the DNA, than the other two tests do. But the information is very different. So it really just depends on what you want to know. That will dictate what kind of test you take. Daniel, I'm sorry, Daniel, I don't have on my glasses. Daniel wants to know how much does it cost. Well, that's a great question. You know, it's Father's Day coming up on June 18th. And so we have a Father's Day promotion going on this month. Our Patriclan tests are $275, and you get that automatically when you go onto our website, which is africanancestry.com. Click on Buy Now. You'll automatically get that discount. And there's a discount if you order more than one test. You'll get a total of $50 off of the regular price. And so I encourage you to consider this as a gift for your father, for the patriarch in your family for the holidays. Bob Lott is representing from Philly, very prolific filmmaker, the Massa people from Cameroon. Let's see, I'm going to take some more questions. Tawana wants to know if I took a test, the results I get back actually show my maternal side. Yes, if you take a Matriclan test, that's what they'll show. And you need your father or your brother to get your paternal ancestry. You got it, Tawana. Jamal Brown from Rutgers. Oh, represent. We had a great Black History Month program a couple years ago with Jamal at Rutgers. Okay. and he's from Guinea-Bissau, really talented saxophone player. His people put it down in that program at Rutgers. Shout out to Rutgers. Okay, so Ty, our Facebook administrator, our Facebook Live producer, let me get her title right. She just reminded me, let's talk about, thanks. Let's talk about, can your son, so if you're a woman and you don't have a father, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. If you're a woman and your father's not available, you may not know your father may be an ancestor, or you don't have a brother like me, I don't have a brother. Can you use your son to take the test, to get your paternal line? And the answer is no. Your son got his blue dot from his father, not from your father. So you have to be really careful when you don't have a male, when you're looking for a male relative. He has to be on your father's line, a direct descendant. Make sure he has that blue dot from your dad. Okay? So that's understanding the types of DNA used in genetic testing for this Facebook Live episode. I want to thank you for tuning in. Check out our site where you can get way more information on the paternal and the Patriclan special for the month, the test that we offer. We have testimonials on the site, lots of YouTube videos where you can see people who tell you in their own words how awesome we are. And then I'm going to be back tomorrow, Wednesday, for our regular Facebook Live. But if you like this, if you thought that this was informative, let us know, because what we're trying to do is come to you every Tuesday with something related to the science, to dispel the misconceptions, to educate and inform. We have a lot of ideas out there about opinions about how our DNA is being used, what it's being used for, and we want to help you work through that so that you can have the best experience possible using your own genetic material. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Peace.